Tony Pollard officially done in Dallas. Derrick Henry won't be headed back to Tennessee anymore. Tony Pollard will be the new running back for the Tennessee Titans. Per several reports over on Twitter, Tony Pollard is expected to ink a new deal with the Tennessee Titans. And even though we don't know current value or years as of yet, it's safe to say that he is going to be the guy in Tennessee. While this could end up being a really good move for Tony Pollard, it does end up killing any value that Tyjae Spears had. And a couple of reasons why. Number one, Spears and Pollard are much closer to being the same type of running back than Spears and Derrick Henry were last season. Spears came in as a third down, change of pace type of guy to get Henry off the field and get him a breather. He does well in open spaces and he can catch the ball in the passing game as well. But Tony Pollard does those things too. In fact, it would be unwise for the Tennessee Titans to use Tony Pollard the same way that they utilized Derrick Henry, because that's what Dallas did this past season with Pollard and it didn't work out that well. Tennessee is going to need to get creative with Tony Pollard, really trying to figure out a way to get him outside the tackles, get him in open spaces, and find some open field for him. He's not a guy that's going to take a handoff 15 times in between the tackles and run it right at the throat of the defense. And that's what Dallas started doing with him last year, when the years prior they had Zeke doing that and Tony Pollard was being utilized in a different type of game plan. But in Dallas, Tony Pollard had a ton of supporting weapons around him. Say what you want to about Dak Prescott, he still puts up really good numbers and he's a veteran quarterback. He had CeeDee Lamb there, absolutely explosive, one of the best wide receivers in all of football. You had Jake Ferguson at tight end, and yeah, you didn't have a great wide receiver 2 type of option, but that was still some decent weapons around them. And now he heads to Tennessee with Will Levis, who you're going to need to see some major growth out of heading into his second year, a wide receiver position that's really in flux right now, and you've got a tight end position with Chigioco, but how is the new coaching staff going to utilize him? For me, this is a downgrade for Tony Pollard. And even though we saw Derrick Henry be a top 10 running back in this offense last season, it's really going to depend on what Tennessee does the rest of the offseason and in the draft to help stabilize that and give Tony Pollard more weapons around him. Because as of right now, I'm very hesitant to even include Tony Pollard in my top 12 running backs. And while adding a running back of Tony Pollard's caliber is always good for the passing game, that's all going to be based around Will Levis. If he can step up and be a guy that a lot of teams look at and say, man, we should have used a first-round pick on him a couple of years ago, that's great for Tennessee and this entire offense. But if he becomes the guy that everyone thought he was, and that's why he slipped so far in the draft, then that's not going to be good for Tony Pollard, and it's not going to be good for anyone else around him. This Tennessee offense this year is really a gamble, and Tony Pollard is going to be caught right in the middle of it. Headliner Nation, hit the bell notification button so anytime we drop breaking news here on the channel about NFL free agency, you'll know about it right away.
Analytics, off the chain, all the channels, not the same. Jake and Kyle